What is this disability that you say? How do you define this word disability for them?
And as a therapist, I wish that question was not there at all.
What kind of a child should ideally go for special education?
I want to celebrate their diversity. Unfortunately, NGO sectors are very difficult to run. The world is not about them. The world is about children.
Welcome to the podcast Brain in You. Today we have a very, very special guest, a very favorite guest of mine, who's a therapist who has opened multiple centers for special education. Her name is Sharmila Jois Vellal.
Thank you. Thank you for the intro.
Welcome, Sharmila. I hope we are able to come up with certain points that parents can take away,
Sure.
certain myths that we can break, and certain steps that they can take for their children in the years to come. And the way I would maybe want to hear from you is probably different age groups, maybe, under 5 years, teenagers, maybe older. So we have met in the past 2-3 times, and a lot of things that you have left me with, a lot of new things. So even though I have been speaking to such parents on a daily basis, but some things I had no idea about, especially the job aspect. What do they do when the parents age? Where do they live? How do they live? Who takes care of them? Insurance. These were things that you threw at me and it left me thinking. But anyways, I'll start. So firstly, I just want to congratulate her. She's just opened up her new fabulous center in Bangalore and it's called Anantha. I will let her speak about it. Why Anantha? Why the name Anantha?
Anantha is a Sanskrit term. It means infinite possibility. So I don't want our parents within special needs community to think that there's only one way of doing things, or just because somebody is successful, that's the only way to find success. There is multiple way, multiple choices, multiple future plans they can do, pathway they can take up. And that's one of the reasons why I want parents to start thinking out of the box. Don't be stuck in one pattern that they've seen the success. You can create your own success. That being the mindset, I've started Anantha Academy for Special Education. And when I was planning the Anantha, I initially thought, let me do something different from what everybody is already doing. But then I have been in the field of education for over 18, 19 years now, very close to 2 decades. And for me to keep myself away from education was something I found very difficult. So decided to have the entire. So Anantha is going to be a place where you put your children at 6 years old, and we have the primary education or the academic level and functional level education. Once they do come to 13 years, then we start training them for the NIOS board exams, complete the 10th and 12th, and then they get trained for the vocation. Before vocation, they go to pre-vocation training, and then we plan their vocation. I'm not going to be opening vocation centers because each child needs different. The minute you establish a vocation center, you're saying that's the only vocation that I'm providing, but I want to provide infinite opportunity for my children. So
how is Anantha? Because you've done 2 more special education centers in the past. How is this different?
So earlier, the other centers that I helped establish were also close to my heart. I started working on them along with my partners then with a certain intention. And as you grow old, you kind of keep experiencing different things and you want to bring in those, right? So the only thing that I would think at the moment, which is a little different in Anantha, is that I finally realized after about 18 years that I've been working towards inclusion, right? Inclusion is the term in special ed. I realized that inclusion is a myth. I don't want to tell the parents that inclusion is going to happen and the children will be in mainstream. That's something that finally occurred to me, because our children are not as equipped as other children. They need that extra attention. They need that time. They need that support that is required. And just putting them in the mainstream education is not the solution. So once I figured that, what do I actually want from our children? I want to celebrate their diversity. I want to accept that there are some certain difficulty, but along with that comes amazing, beautiful talent and skills, which is what I want to celebrate. And it doesn't matter the environment they are in, as long as people are giving, people are encouraging them in the right direction, that is what is important. Make them feel safe so that they can explore the society. That is what I want. And the minute you provide that platform to the children, and they let them make their mistakes and laugh out loud along with them when they make that mistake, they get the confidence. Everybody makes mistakes, right? And once the confidence comes in, then you will see them embracing the society. So I really feel in the childhood, it's okay for them to have this special platform. So what? And that is why I realized that at Anantha, I'm going to be bold and saying it that this is not mainstream education, but I will try my best to mimic the mainstream education. So bring in as many collaborations as possible so that they get experiences in different areas, they get to meet different people. And also I realized that having one curriculum is exactly what mainstream education is doing, and that is not going to help our children. So we need to have multiple choices for our children so that they feel it's not all that difficult. So I have two curriculums, academic level and functional level. So for those children who are not cognitively able to handle the pressure or the stress created by the academic, they go for functional. So from 6 years onwards, we do the functional. And if the child is ready to take on the academics, then we support them to come
What
back.
is functional?
Functional would be teaching them day-to-day living.
Okay.
Along with that, like for example, the subjects that they will be doing is functional English, functional mathematics, communication, self-advocacy, and life skill management.
It's ADL.
Yeah, ADL is life skill management.
ADL is a part of functional.
Yes.
Okay.
So in functional English, for example, it's if I take the theme for the month as grocery store, right? My comprehension, my spellings, everything will be related to grocery store. So they will not be learning some spelling that they will never use in their life. They will be learning spellings that is relevant to their life. And we won't go into detail of learning the spelling. They will learn those words by sight. So if I say go to billing counter, they should be able to track billing and go there. If I say go to the frozen stall section, get me some ice cream, they should be able to search, scan for it, right? So use or teach only those relevant words that's applicable to their life, right? Do the comprehension that makes sense for them instead of talking about what somebody else they've never met did something that they can't understand, right? Same thing applies for mathematics, functional mathematics. So I will be teaching numbers as in terms of what is relevant in grocery store, right? How do I scan for the pricing? How do I check for the expiry date? And now if I have 100 rupees and this thing is costing 50 rupees, how much should I take back? Right? So I start with teaching them what is the difference between 3 and 30. Right? So those are the functional aspect that is required, not going into details of, learning unit, tens, hundreds, thousands. That confuses them, right? So teach them mathematics and English relevant to their life. And then when it comes to communication and self-advocacy, I've said it as self-advocacy, but it's morely to do with their social and emotional growth. Because it's not just about us, right? Self-advocacy, we are understanding what I like, what I dislike, what I want to do, what I don't want to do. Our children are unable to tell that. They can't discriminate between things. Instead of just telling about you, if at all I give them a choice. For example, I tell them it's going to rain. So it's raining rather. And I give you a choice between, do you want to take an umbrella or do you want me to call for a cab? Right? The child might just be quiet because they don't like both the option. Self-advocacy class, we want to tell them, you have your own mind. So tell me what you want to do.
The choice you want to make. Okay.
So the choice might be just staying back, waiting for the rain to stop. Or the choice might be just you don't care about it. Right? So it's about the self-advocacy also includes the social and the emotional aspect. So it's if you are feeling low, and when you're feeling low, you want to be by yourself and you don't want any, distractions or anyone talking to you about it. It's the same goes for the other person as well. So as a therapist, I want to tell them, even I'm feeling low. Can you not scream today? Right? So making them understand what you go through is what I go through as well. And I've seen my students do that. So when they are in, especially children with autism, when they tend to scream out loud because they have some trigger, And I go, I'm having a very bad day today.
Okay.
Can you please not do that?
Yeah.
It's okay for you to go to the other room,
And
scream out
yeah.
loud, come back.
Yeah.
But please don't do that in front of me.
Okay.
I'm having a bad day. And they listen.
They get it.
They get it.
Okay.
Right? So it's about making them understand that others too have the same kind of stress or anxiety as you do. Right? So that is what I'm looking at, not just having one
So you
curriculum.
said there is one vocational, which is functional, not vocational. Functional, you called it. The other is academic.
Yeah.
Parents are happy when, or who decides?
So
Parent decide that my child will do academic and functional, or
I'm glad you asked me that question, because most of the time when I tell that, talk about functional, parents usually go, no, I want to try academics.
yeah, yeah,
And I always tell, that's fine with me. I will provide you that flexibility of taking up academics. But I want you to be on board with me, because I don't want to be a single decision maker and saying he's showing signs of anxiety or stress for academics, or there's no point teaching spelling. I don't want parents to feel hopeless about it, or saying that functional jayega to there is no future.
Yeah.
I want to keep the functional in such a way that any time they can shift to the academics as well.
Okay.
Right? So I've always felt education is not about learning something that is unattainable or incomprehensible. What should education be? It should be something that makes you part of the society, that makes you a responsible being, that makes you someone who will take up the responsibility of being responsible on your own. Right? You're not dependent on anyone. That is education. So keep that in mind. So I try to work with the parents rather than, put down the thing saying that, no, let's try the functional. We'll try academics, as you say, definitely. But if at all at any point the child is showing stress or anxiety, let's go back to functional. I really don't mind coming back to anxiety when the child, academic, when the child is feeling better. But I want the parents to feel they are the ones who are decision
taking
maker
the decision.
for the child, and therefore they should keep the child's betterment or benefit in their mind while deciding. Otherwise, as educator, we are game for anything. We will help you through, no problem. I really feel that till about few years back, there was this thing of, where the parents would just be separate, the educators would be separate, there was no communication. And as a therapist, I would tell them, this is what I'm doing. And parents would have to listen. But now I think even parents feel empowered. Okay. And because they have clarity in terms of where they want the child. And once they tell the educator, the reason I want the academics is this.
But I think it's tough.
It
for
is.
them to understand this new definition of education being empowerment versus job. I think for every parent is, mera bachcha kya karega bada hoke?
Yeah.
And how will he take care of his expenses? It just ends there.
Yeah.
That is their only worry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are there any key traits or any 3 things or 2 things or 5 things that a parent can judge about a child and say कि अगर ये 3-4 चीजें हैं, then I should start with functional and then maybe stick to functional or try to build him in functional or maybe worry about academic. ऐसा कुछ है? Some 3, 4, 5 high level things that a parent.
So yeah, I mean, I would definitely say the sitting tolerance is something that we would, as an educator, hope the child sits for at least 20 minutes.
Okay.
At least 20 minutes.
And this is how old a child he is? 6-year-old.
Above 6 years
Above
old.
6
All my programs are above 6 years old, and I don't want to work below, because I feel till about 6 years to 7 years, the focus should be just therapy, speech therapy, occupation therapy, and not pertaining to education at all.
Okay.
Once the foundation is strong, it becomes easier to kind of
Got it.
mold them in whichever environment you want.
So the first you're saying is 20 minutes of sitting tolerance.
Yeah, at least minimum of 20 minutes of sitting tolerance,
Okay.
So that's something we usually work with, child who sits for 10 minutes also, and give them a break and break down the task. We can do that. But if the child is unable to do that also and gets up for every 1 minute or 2 minutes, it becomes difficult for the child also, because how many times would you like it if I were to keep telling you, don't sit like this or don't walk around, don't. As a person, we ourselves will feel bad. How many times will you tell me that? Right? So for the child's sake itself, we would want them to have a good sitting tolerance. That's one thing. And some form of expressive language. I
Okay.
want to do it. Or if it's not necessarily writing or not necessarily verbal, but then teach them sign language or something, or some form wherein the teacher knows if the child doesn't want to do it, it's perfectly fine. We won't force it. But when the teacher is unaware, because there's other children as well, oops, the other children are will have other needs, right? So a teacher is focusing on everyone. She might miss out on the child. I should not use this word, or I should not say such things, otherwise the trigger will happen. So if at all the parents would know in terms of how to make their child expressive,
Got it.
that would help us a lot. Not really, I'm not saying sentences or anything, but just yes,
Express
no,
what you feel.
don't want to do,
Okay.
or water, toilet
Okay.
break, simple basic stuff. If the child has that in fun, it'll be easier for us to work with that.
When you say work, you mean with these two things, if the child is comfortable setting tolerance and to express himself or herself, it is easier for the child to enter the academic line of.
Definitely, definitely. Because one is, see, when parents think of academics, they think of a lot of writing and a lot of, homeworks, a lot of things to understand, which is true. There are, but as a special school, we can break it down. We
Okay.
can make it simpler for them. But for that to happen, they need to have some amount of, patience to listen, or
Got it.
because we try to have everything as 40% theory and the rest of the 60% as practicals or
Okay.
hands-on activity, use of materials and things like that. But the reason it's kept 40% is you are targeting NIOS.
Got it.
And if you are targeting NIOS, the child has to learn to, without any teaching material,
Got
they
it.
have to learn to
So I
read
was
and-
about to ask this. The curriculum that you use or any special school uses is always NIOS?
So the board is an iOS.
Yeah,
that
the board.
Not necessarily always.
Okay.
There are some schools like such as DPS and all who have ICSC and CBSC.
Okay.
They choose to have NIOS as well because they don't want to have, because they want that right for education, right? So they want to provide education for everyone.
Okay.
So they want that flexibility for the students.
Okay.
But schools such as special schools as such, they would usually go for an iOS because of the flexibility it provides us. It subject-wise flexibility, time-wise flexibility, and it also in terms of
Exams.
communicating, communicating to the parents.
Yeah.
The parents are on board.
Okay.
It's not like the parents are in dark and they don't know what's happening. The parents are on board with what's happening. When is the exam? And they take a decision of writing the exam whenever they
Whenever
feel
they are
their child is
prepared.
ready. So that flexibility our children needs.
Okay.
And that makes a whole lot of difference for us. So
Okay. Ek cheez. So tell me this. I don't understand this. That when, let's say a child is 7-year-old, do you call it a grade 1 or a grade 2 in your special education, or what do you call them?
So there is no grade. I mean, although we put it for the sake of our parents, right? So, but for me as a founder and person who's been in this field for a long time, I just look at whether a child is in word level, phrase level, sentence level, paragraph level.
Got it.
I just want to see as if the child is able to comprehend numbers at a single digit number, double digit number. I
Okay.
don't look at grade 1, grade 2 and things like that.
Okay.
And we don't even take syllabuses from the other boards or even the NIOS to kind of see if at all the child, because the whole idea of having special school is that you're flexible in your curriculum. We are teaching them things that is required for them and at the most basic level without complicating it for the parents or for the child, right?
So what kind of a child should ideally go for special education?
I would definitely say probably children who have moderate to severe disability but mild, definitely they should try reaching out to the mainstream school, mainly because of the exposure they get, as well as the assessment format and everything. They get used to it.
Okay.
The vocabulary, the socialization, the emotional aspect, they learn from the mainstream school. So mild disability definitely we should
What
try.
is this disability that you say? How do you define this word disability for them? What exactly should they be or not be to choose one of these paths?
It's a very hard question, and as a therapist, I wish that question was not there at all. Because as I said, I feel like in terms of we have begun to see categorizing children into mainstream and special school and everything only solely based on the academics, which should not be. We should look at how comfortable the child is in terms of social, emotional communication. And if the child is unable to cope with for example, I place my child who I know cognitively, he's super intelligent. I have had so many cases like that, where the child is non-verbal. He does
Got
not
it.
talk. And I know for a fact when I introduced words, complicated words, which is like for a seventh grade, the child knew all of them. He would give me synonyms and everything. And when
Nice.
I asked the mother, "Have you been reading for him?" and she's like, "No, he doesn't sit. He's just walking around all the time."
Okay.
Right? But the child was listening to her when she was
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about read these
Yeah.
books, right? And I can't even recommend a mainstream school because the child does not have
Have the
those
focus.
qualities
Yeah.
required to be in the
Yeah.
mainstream
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
But he is at the level his peers are in.
So intelligence
Like,
has
it's
nothing to do
nothing
with
to do
maybe
with.
other.
I think it's
Yeah.
the whole fact that we are not look into, and those are the I don't want to call it social aspect, but probably the etiquettes of being in a school where you sit for the teacher and you kind of, listen. Let's get it clear. Mainstream school, there's nothing wrong with them. They are doing what they're supposed to do. It's just that it's huge,
Yeah.
and the
It's a
number
lot.
of students they have in each class is immense.
Yeah.
For a child with disability who has a lot of stimulus, like so visually or
Yeah.
even auditorily,
Auditory, yeah.
kinesthetically, there's just so many things happening, right? And it's difficult for them to cope with it. And it's I mean, it's high time we stop looking at things as black and white. We should stop victimizing ourselves and saying the person who's not taking our children is mainstream school. It is not the case. They are catering to those children who are able to do it. So let's create an environment where our children will be able to show that they equally have the intelligence.
Yeah.
They just need that space
Good
which
point.
will allow them to walk
Yeah.
around, or
Yeah.
where the low stimulus, low visual. Because in my
Correct.
class, if you see, all the walls are white. There's only one board with all the information on what you're going to learn. There is a visual schedule, right? A mainstream school will have so many things that's running.
distract.
Visually, there,
Yeah, yeah.
and there's a child that will scream, the
Yeah,
child
yeah.
that will cry. You can't stop all these things, right? So we need to understand it's the environment the child requires. It's
Got it.
nothing to do with demeaning. I think
Yeah.
as educators, as parents, we need to stop looking at it as, oh, if I go to a special school, my son will have lesser value.
Correct.
No, you
Very
will.
strong point. Yeah.
It will. It's
He might
probably,
actually end up doing more
yeah.
because he's getting the right environment.
Yeah, because I sometimes see, I really wish parents would break this myth that they have in themselves, because I can see the anxiety that they will have for the child being placed onto the child as well, right? So when the child comes with this whole anxiety, the baggage of, so I'll end up telling sometimes directly to the parents, saying that it's okay. Have faith in me. I will try my best. If at all I am not able to, I'll bring in someone else. But then have faith. Have faith in yourself, right? So I really feel that we, instead of this is what happens when we are kind of in a society. We keep hearing other people say, "My child went to do this, and he did that. And achievement
Yeah,
is
a
this."
lot of social pressure.
We have a lot of social pressure, and it's okay if at all. Your child is not in the rat race, which is good. That means you're giving them the environment which will help him flourish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
So intelligence is not necessarily the criteria to define disability.
Yep. I disagree.
I think
with that.
this is something very strong for parents to take away.
Yeah.
Because maybe they are made to believe that your child is not intelligent, or he is dumb, or he has less of brain in some, if I can put it that easily, that they have less of brain. Okay, I get it. Has there been circumstances or, some success stories wherein they come to a special school? Why I asked that question of grade was this, that they come in so-called grade 1, however you define it.
Yeah.
And then they exit from your system
Yeah.
and they actually go and join a mainstream school in a particular grade. Does that happen?
A lot of cases are there,
Okay.
and we have had a lot of students, probably not the institute that I have been running or anything, but then the other centers, where I have interacted with the students for various reasons. I have seen the students go back to those centers
Wow.
as teachers,
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
and they would have had their work experiences, and then they would have said, like, I've proven myself.
Yeah.
I'm content now let
Yeah.
me help those who need the
Yeah.
help, right? So I have seen that where they've broken the myth of special schools say kuch nahi hoga, which is
Myth, and do you think it's a taboo? When a parent says my child does not go to a very branded school but goes to a
So
special
I
school.
think to a certain extent, it's kind of very slowly breaking.
Yeah.
I see a lot of the new generation parents accepting it and embracing it with ease. And they will actually say, hey, why don't we do movie night? Or why don't we do, a restaurant, go a date night, for date for children on Valentine's Day? They come up with all these really awesome ideas, and so I think the new generation parents are more accepting,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
they are willing to experiment as such. As a matter of fact, when we used to work with children with who are from underprivileged background, and who had a learning disability and they were never detected in the underprivileged government schools and everything, you can see that there was a little bit of an, do I fit into this system? Because I have been in mainstream school.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how they treated me, but I
Yeah.
still was in a
Yeah.
school where
Yes, I
cognitively
have heard
everybody,
this.
were in a higher
Yeah.
place than me. And now here I am, and I'm the master. Everybody will listen to me because cognitively I'm comparatively higher. Should I be in this place?
Yeah.
They have that fear of where am I? Why am I here?
Yeah.
But then once they kind of get used to the whole attention they get, the ease with which the teacher will help them understand the chapters and break it down, right? You will see them automatically break their barrier down and embrace the whole system. It's not necessarily to do with any kind of section of the society, and everyone, whenever they talk about the special needs school, they will be like hesitant about it, which is very human nature. Nobody wants to belong in something that you have stigmatized it as
Yes, I think that it's
people
a stigma
below
the way.
IQ. Yeah.
One thing I've seen change now is even such so-called special schools are being rephrased as child-centric, child-inclusive. So one of my friend's daughter, she has ADHD. Now she used to go to a regular so-called mainstream school, and now she has moved to a more activity-based learning. This is how they position themselves. The moment you don't call yourself a special school and you call
Correct.
yourself activity-based learning, child-centric, child-focused, all these new terms, the parent is happy. There's no stigma attached.
Yeah.
But if you go deeper, if you uncover the layer, you know what it is.
Yeah.
You know why your child is there. Because socially, like you said, social aspect of the child is slightly different from the herd that is there in the mainstream. And it has nothing to do with the intelligence of the child.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and like what I feel is that uh, I feel you can sugarcoat things however which way
Yeah,
you want
exactly. I
and
think
make
that's what they're doing.
yeah, and education not just for children with special needs, even for neurotypicals. You have school varieties of school. I mean, I don't know whether the trend is everywhere in other cities, but Bangalore has all kinds of varieties of schools. Like it's alternative schools are becoming like a big thing
Yeah, it is
here,
becoming
right?
a big thing.
So you can you as a parent know your child the best, right? And finally people have begun to realize education needn't necessarily be in a conformity of
Structured,
strict
yeah,
rules and
regimented.
all that, right? So you know your child the best, and you can decide whichever education your child will benefit from. And they might sugarcoat it however which way you want, and there's some parents who will like the system, and they will stick to it for a long time because they see that the child is blossoming there,
Yeah.
right? But there's some parents who will be like, this is not something I want to do.
I want to ask one thing because this was something which was brought up to me by a doctor, a very senior doctor in Narayana. He said parents come to him and say, I'm happy to send my child to a special school, but when my child enters this place, he finds children who are visually different. And then he comes back and he asks, why am I there? I'm not like them.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure parents face this.
Yeah, yeah. Because see, even our regular children, they'll come and they will have that thing of, oh my God, how do I react?
Yeah. How do I
Right?
react?
Like they will be like, should I help? Should I not
Yeah.
help? That just shows about the exposure that has happened in their
Yeah.
life, right? Even for a child with special needs, the immediate first reaction with anyone would be like, oh my God. I had a student who had, he had swollen face, and in the first two classes, all the students kept looking at him, and we were like, "That's very rude. What you guys are doing is not, not nice. So if you want have any questions, why don't you ask him?" And they were reluctant. They didn't want to ask, but then they were like, "Does it hurt?"
Okay. Yeah.
So they
Okay.
just want to know, and then he was like, no, it scratches, it's itchy, and then once they kind of realized that they can talk to him about it, they were cool,
They were okay.
he was cool, nobody bothered about any kind of worries or anything. So I think we need to give that time for
Exposure.
people to kind of relax and
But what I'm told is because of that reason,
yeah,
parents prefer to
I
not
agree.
send the child. So I have seen some of the centers that you've run. I've seen it in photos, some I've visited. And they look very approachable and I would say bright and nice and
Yeah.
welcoming. However, I have also seen one room setups which are run for maybe most of the children who come there, I feel they belong to the marginalized sector or and they are in the extreme level of disability, if I may say so. It does look like a little sad environment.
Yeah.
And because the founders are not charging a lot of fees,
Yes.
so the whole setup also looks a little not so pleasant, a bit unpleasant. And I think that is also a reason why parents are holding their children back. Instead
Yeah.
of sending to such schools, we might as well keep the children at home. And then what happens? But do they end up being at home always because they don't enter mainstream?
So I think the situation you're describing at the moment is mostly about 30 or about 20 years old, where suddenly parents realize, I don't know what to do next.
Okay.
Right, and they don't have a clear plan as such, so they put them in a center where they hope that they will learn some kind of vocational skills. Unfortunately, NGO sectors are very difficult to run. Mainly because of, see, even me for that matter, I wouldn't want to charge parents a lot of
Yeah,
money.
but you have to run
But
it.
I have to run my
And run
center.
it
I
well.
have to have qualified people.
Yeah.
And I can't offer some peanuts and to the nowadays generation and tell them do it for social service sake.
Yeah,
They
I
have
get
their
it.
requirements too. They have to run a family too, right? And it's a huge dearth,
It is.
in especially to have a resource person,
Yeah.
and to maintain a resource person, it's even more difficult. You ask any center who's running a special needs center, irrespective what format they're running, the biggest struggle we have is finding the resource person. It's a huge dearth. I'm not trying to tell that people stay there, will get training and leave in 1 year or time or something, but that is a reality. That's something that's happening actually. Where people stay in one center, get the training done, and they want to, which is good for them. As an individual, you're learning so much, but then you're leaving behind that many children, and you're leaving behind a management who's again has to do the whole process all over again, right? So one is the resource, and the other one being the finance. Where do we get the finance from?
Yeah.
You know?
On resource, when I met this founder yesterday, she said mostly people are, even the therapists, the fresher lot of therapists who are like just coming out of college are shopping. They go to one center, they learn in 6 months because they learn nothing in the college.
Yeah.
They learn on the job for 6 months, then they hop with some hike in salary, get another job, learn for 6 months. By the end of a year or two, they end up opening their own shop, one room shop with very limited exposure. And parents have no choice but to take their children to them.
Yeah.
By the end of the month, they realize that हमारे तो 20-30 हज़ार रुपए खर्च हो गए, but बच्चे में कोई difference नहीं आया.
Yeah.
Which actually doesn't. Anyways, yeah, they won't, right?
Yeah.
Because these people are just not qualified.
Yeah. So
But
I
is
think,
this a regulated sector?
Um, so when it comes to the young kids, right? personally train them a lot. Even when I'm recruiting, I tell them, have a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to leave one center and go to the next center, get experience in all across.
Yeah.
You look at the resumes and they will have so many skills and so
Yeah.
many experiences and everything. But then what do you actually master at?
Yeah.
What do you actually bring on table? Right? So that's something, don't get into many skills. Get into one skill and perfect yourself in that. That's
Yeah.
lacking.
Is there a way, on that note, is there a way for parents to understand which therapist to go for? Because Bangalore, you may have a lot of good options. Metropolitans leave aside.
Yeah.
Let's say think about a tier 2 city.
Yeah.
They have very limited options, and almost everybody there has opened up a shop,
Yeah.
an OT shop, a speech therapy shop. What is the way, or some 2, 3 ways for them to assess that this therapist is actually experienced or will actually add value? Is there a way for them to assess?
Unfortunately, I mean, like right now, there are a lot of online, networking community that's coming up. Like we have the We Care, We Bridge, and then Mitra for Life, and all those people who are trying to segregate this thing, like list down the centers and provide the listings and everything. That is there. But then I would see it's unfortunately rehab community is still in the infancy stage, and it has been in the infancy stage for probably 2 decades now or 3 decades, right? Where we still fall back on the word of mouth.
Okay.
Word of mouth is it matters a lot. So if you have one therapist that you truly believe,
Okay.
right, hook on to that therapist,
Okay.
because they will by hook or by crook find you people that you require. Right.
And will bring
so
about a
like
change.
I do the same thing. Like, if at all a parent comes to me and I'm working with the parent and I'm like, this child has an amazing skill in music. So instead of wasting your money here, why don't you take him to the music class and he will benefit? I will search for music therapist a lot and I will recommend that to the parents.
All right.
Right. So that's one of the things that our parent really wish they would do, that just find one person that you can totally depend upon. There's so many in our field that I can like, the minute I say that, tuck, 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 so many names are coming. But just find them and hold on to them and they will definitely help you. And special
But
ed
is there a
community-
way to assess that between two therapists, I just got to know my child needs therapy? How do I assess which therapist to go for? Is it some qualification, some certification, some number of year experience
See,
that helps?
one is, yes, if at all they have any amount of training in special education, qualification in special education would be amazing. RCI specialist especially, it will be really good because that will just basically show that they are committed to this field, right? I personally don't have an RCI, but then, I would always have appreciation or respect for those people who finish it. But then in terms of, I think even when I'm interviewing nowadays, I don't really look at whether you have masters or whether you have diploma and everything. I just look for passion.
So, what
you
is the
know.
question that you ask that you understand that this person will be a good fit?
One is I just ask them, why are you in this field?
Okay.
And this is the era of glam and this is the era of social media. And is it because you've seen some story in social media that inspired you? Because if that is the case, then it is a very temporary passion that they have.
Yeah.
Right. But then they bring out the story of like, I really have been in psychology field, or I've seen that person and I see the struggle they went through. They come up with a story, right? And you are like, that they have thought through.
Got it.
Right. And that's when I'll be like, okay, so if at all I were to put you in probation for 6 months and not pay you, would you
do
still
it?
take it?
Yeah.
They'll be like, yes, why not?
Okay.
And that's when I know that they're committed to this field.
Okay.
And most of the time in my interviews with the newbies, I sit for an hour and a half, try to understand the reasoning behind things.
Why are they doing
And I
this?
will usually tell them, hey, this is not your field. Or why don't you try something else, or
Got
be exposed to that field, work under me, but work as an admin or something.
Yeah.
Give me the confidence that you actually don't mind. Because as a special educator, you're not just doing some technique which is miraculous,
Correct.
magical, and you're teaching them. You are actually doing a lot more in terms of you're getting bitten, you're getting kicked, you're getting punched.
Yeah.
You probably will have to clean the poop or the pee that has happened. You probably have to tolerate the screaming that has happened. A person with a huge mental strength can take on.
Got it. So maybe a good, relatable background, experience, mental strength, patience, calmness,
maturity, emotionally mature.
Yeah.
World is not about them. The world is about children. So the minute they go, I will question, are you really in the right field?
Got it.
You know, so I mean, like I keep telling, like in terms of uh, my kids will, they're very shocked when they see me the way I am in my with my students. They're like, you're so calm with them. You're so mature with them. Why is it we don't get? Why is it we get only screams? I'm like, they bring out the best in me. You don't. So it's like those children should make you feel like, oh my God, you're so adorable, or
Yeah,
oh
okay,
my
get it.
God, you have so much talent. They should make you feel like the future that they lay, you can see it.
Got it.
Right? And
Yeah.
not someone, oh, he can't do this.
Yeah, get it.
I'm having trouble breaking or cracking his anxiety. What do I do? You know, if at all they have that, then they will have very little success. So you need to have that calmness and let me try different techniques every
Got it.
day. Yeah.